Somebody out there is carrying a pistol they hate to shoot. That is not a hot take. That is a quiet, common problem, and it gets people hurt. I have seen it 100 times. The gun feels fine in the store. Then the first magazine happens, the muzzle snaps. The hands sting, the confidence collapses, and practice turns into avoidance. So here is the question that should make your stomach tighten a little. If your pistol hurts to train, with how many honest reps are you really going to get before you bet your life on it? Question mark. This video is a focused top 7 low recoil defensive pistols that still do real defensive work. Some of these guns cheat recoil with smart physics. More slide mass, longer spring travel built-in compensation. Some of them use 380 ACP in platforms that are actually designed for humans with real hands. The common thread is simple. You can run them repeatedly without paying a pain tax. No tactic tutorials. No macho speeches. Just why each one feels calmer. What it does well and the trade-offs. You should know before you spend the money. Item number 1. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Pocket pistols get carried a lot and shot once. The Bodyguard 2.0 is built to break that pattern. It stays tiny in 380 ACP, but the whole point is shootability, not suffering. Here is the part that matters. It is a locked breech micro pistol, and that changes the entire recoil story compared to the old-school blowback feel. The impulse stretches out instead of spiking, so the gun feels less sharp even though it is small. In concrete terms, it is doing that with a 2.75-inch barrel and an unloaded weight around 9.8 ounces, which is borderline ridiculous for something that still wants to be controllable. Another underrated recoil feature is traction. Smith & Wesson borrowed the aggressive but carry-safe texture philosophy from the M&P line, which helps the gun stay planted instead of squirming when you are trying to shoot quickly and stay accurate. That stays in the hand. Feeling is half the battle with micro pistols. Capacity is also a quiet win here. With the extended magazine, you are looking at 12+1 in a pocket-sized platform, which is wild compared to what Micro 380 used to mean. Real-world notes: many owners mention stiff magazine springs or controls when new, and some early production guns had scattered feeding complaints that later runs reportedly improved. Treat it like any defensive pistol. Verify reliability with your chosen carry load. If you want pocket capable without the usual punishment, this is one of the strongest modern answers. Item number 2. SIG Sauer P365 Fusées. If the Bodyguard is make tiny feel bigger, the P365 Fuse is make slim feel full size. It is a crossover built around a 4.3-inch barrel, but it wears that length in a way that still carries like a modern concealed pistol. Recoil-wise, it is physics. A longer slide adds reciprocating mass, and the spring system has more room to cycle smoothly. That often shifts the feel from snap to push. The Fuse also has enough overall length to calm down the cycle, sitting at 7.2 inches long, and it brings real mass to the party at 23.1 ounces unloaded. Ergonomics matter too. The Fuse uses an aggressively grippy LXG style texture, and it ships with a flared magwell. That magwell is not only for reloads, it gives the heel of your hand a shelf-like support, which helps resist muzzle rise, and the width stays slim around 1.1 inches. So you are not fighting a chunky grip just to hold the gun securely. The defensive headline is capacity. Depending on configuration, you are in seriously a lot of 9mm territory up to 21+1. Paired with a barrel length that tends to help modern defensive loads perform consistently. The trade-offs are predictable. It is longer than a micro, so concealment is a little less effortless. Some users have also mentioned early reliability or finish concerns, depending on batch and environment. So basic maintenance and a proper function test are non-negotiable. When it is behaving, this is one of the easiest shooting thin 9mm pistols in the performance carry lane. Item number 3. Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro Comp OSP Factory Comps. used to be niche. Now they are a mainstream answer to small gun snap. The Hellcat Pro Comp OSP is a factory-compensated 9mm Luger that keeps the same carry footprint as the standard Hellcat Pro, but changes how the gun returns to target. Vent, gas. Upward, and muzzle rise, drops recoil. Energy still exists, but the front sight stays closer to where it started. And that is the part most shooters interpret as control. Springfield does it with a 3.7-inch barrel setup that includes the porting. And the whole package stays compact at 6.75 inches overall. Springfield also did the practical thing. It stays compatible with standard Hellcat. Pro holsters, that is not glamorous, but it is huge. A recoil upgrade that forces you to replace your whole carry setup is not an upgrade for most people. Grip texture is the other piece. Springfield adaptive grip texture tends to feel comfortable when you are carrying, then bite when you clamp down. That helps keep the gun planted as it cycles, which is a big part of perceived recoil. Capacity stays strong at 15+1, with higher capacity options available, so you are not giving up much to gain that flatter feel. Item number 4. FN Reflex LMRD. Some pistols feel softer because of mass or gas. The Reflex XL feels softer because the whole system is tuned for smooth operation, an internal hammer, a clean single-action feel, and a grip that lets the shooter actually lock in. The XL size helps, because it gives you stability without turning the gun into a full-sized brick. In hard numbers, it stays carry-friendly at about 1.0 inch wide, and it lands around 20 ounces unloaded, which is enough weight to take the edge off the cycle without making carry miserable. Slide effort is a huge part of this gun appeal. Many recoil-sensitive shooters also struggle with slide manipulation on micro 9mm pistols. The Reflex design targets that directly aiming for a lighter rack, feel than many striker-fired peers. Again, not a recoil statistic, but a real will you actually run the gun factor. On the capacity side, FN put it in the same weight class as the high capacity Carry Kings with an 18+1 magazine option. That means you are not buying softness by giving up too much capability. Reliability note. The Reflex family has had scattered early chatter, and the XL is positioned as a more refined iteration. Still treat it like any carry pistol. Validate it with your chosen defensive ammo. If you want thin, smooth, easy to operate, this one belongs on the short list. Item number 5. Walther PD380. This is the eyebrow raiser. A 380 ACP. That is not tiny. That is exactly why it works. The Walther PD380 is comfort. First defensive design, a locked breech. 380 ACP, with enough size and weight to make recoil feel almost comically mild. Mass soaks up impulse pair. That with locked breech timing, and the gun shoots soft in a way that is hard to fake. Walther does it with a 3.7-inch barrel in a platform that weighs about 20.6 ounces, which is why it feels like the recoil got turned down while the control got turned up. It is also built around usability. The slide serrations are deep and grippy, and the recoil spring setup is notably easy to rack. For seniors arthritis sufferers or anyone who has ever lost a thumb wrestling match with a stiff slide, that is not a small feature. It is the feature. The trade-off is straightforward. Capacity is lower at 9+1, and it is closer to a compact size gun than a pocket gun. The upside is you get a defensive pistol. You can practice with comfortably, which is often the difference between owning a gun and being proficient with a gun. Item number 6. Ruger Security 380. The Ruger Security 380 is the realistic pick. Approachable, easy to operate, and priced like a normal tool. Mechanically, it leans on a locked breech design for softer recoil, field and blowback 380, ACP pistols, and Ruger adds a strong usability focus. Ruger also makes the math friendly. You get a 3.42-inch barrel and an unloaded weight. around 19.7 ounces, which is a sweet spot for keeping recoil mild, without losing the handling. Feel people want from a defensive gun. Light rack geometry and slide features. Reduce effort and the rear wings give you leverage when cycling the slide. That is especially helpful if you are buying this gun, because other pistols feel too stiff or too punishing. Capacity is another reason this model has a fan club. With extended magazines, you can get up to 15+1 rounds of .380 ACP on board, which takes away the usual small caliber, small capacity complaint. Reliability reports tend to be strong across common defensive hollow points. And Ruger brand identity is basically it runs. Item number 7. SIG Sauer P365 XMacro Comp. If there is a modern benchmark for controllable high capacity, carry size 9mm, the XMacro Comp is right there. It helped prove that a thin gun can carry like a compact and shoot like something bigger. The Comp system uses a slide-based expansion chamber approach to reduce muzzle rise without needing an aftermarket add on SIG pairs that with a 3.1-inch barrel length that lives inside the longer slide, and the full pistol stays compact at 6.6 inches overall. Capacity stays in duty territory at 17+1 rounds, while the profile stays carry-friendly. It also gives you accessory flexibility, including a standard rail, which is why many people treat it as carry gun, plus home defense backup in one package. The persistent caveat is finish durability. Users have reported surface rust concerns in humid or sweaty environments, so this is a wipe it down and maintain it. Ownership experience. If you are willing to do that, you get one of the best blends of capacity, concealment, and recoil control in the market. Here is the takeaway. Low recoil means controllable. Controllable means you will practice more, flinch less, and keep your confidence intact. Smallest and still civilized Bodyguard. 2.0 thin. 9mm. That behaves bigger. P365. Fuse Factory Comp Carry Guns. Hellcat Pro Comp and XMacro Comp Comfort and Easy Operation. PD380 and Security 380. Smooth trigger and friendly handling in a thin package. Reflex XL. Drop a comment with the one thing you struggle with most. Slide effort, hand pain, muzzle flip, or simply finding a pistol you actually want to practice with. And I will build a follow-up list tailored to that exact problem.